I didn't hit the go live button. Oh, now we're live. I did hit it. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Now That's Debatable. We are streaming again, not as consistent as I have been the past few months. Just been busy. Um, so stuff's just been going on. But we still got more guests coming. It's just not as frequent. So sorry about that. But we are back. Glad to be back. Hoping to have a really good conversation. We got Morpheus returning after about maybe like a year and a half, 2 years. It's been a while since you've been on, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. That's correct.
Yeah. So anyway, good to have you back. So you had hit me up. You were I know you had watched this debate. About was a debate about I guess trans people, and you wanted to have a conversation about it. And I thought it'd be fun to have this conversation online. Maybe other people would benefit from it. So I guess just what exactly is going on? I remember you saying how some of the science is is changing, or there was some things that I wasn't aware of that might change my position.
Yeah, well, I think in general, a lot has changed since we debated this, a year and a half ago or so. And so I wanted to kind of do a pulse check on on the topic and also recap a little bit about where there were some disagreements um, and uh, and go through kind of a general kind of um, a general preface and an argument based off of the developments that have happened. And so, I can go into that first, and then we can kind of transition into more dialogue. But I would probably need maybe about 5 minutes to go through everything and lay
Okay.
out the argument, and then
All right. I'll give you 5 minutes.
okay, and then I'm going to use a minute and 15 seconds of that also to play a video. But I want to preface the discussion with this.
I don't know if you'll be able to play that video.
You're just going to hear the audio. It's just going
Okay.
to be audio.
Okay. We'll judge it by the quality, but
Roger.
okay.
No, I understand.
I've never tried playing a video on this platform, but we'll
We'll
give
give
it
it
a
a
shot.
try.
Hmm.
And if worst case scenario, I can just read the quote. But so I want to preface this by saying um, I really do have a belief that I think people are going to look back on this time period, where you've got documentaries like What is a Woman? And they're going to really scratch their heads and wonder how we fell into an intellectual dark age regarding the most basic biological facts. And I think that that'll be studied because it's very interesting, regardless of whether or not we convince anyone this evening or I convince you otherwise. I think at the root of this is um, a kind of a struggle with the basic facts of science as we've always known them. And so I'm going to pivot from there because that's kind of just a cultural insight and interest of mine into just a 1 minute, 15-second video, and then I'll go into my argument.
Hey, that we can't hear that. Just read the quote, Morpheus.
So it
Hey,
says the
Morpheus.
organisms. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Just read the quote because I
Okay.
can tell you right. I can't hear it. The audience isn't going to be able
Okay.
to hear it.
So it's basically saying that an organism's sex, specifically for mammalian species, is binary, based on the precursor gametes that dictate the binary outcome. And so um, there is no spectrum to sex, and that's so that's two PhDs that are referenced here in both biological evolution, and let me see if I can see the other ones. So we have Dr. Emma Hilton and then Dr. Colin Wright, both biologists. And so what they're stating is that sex is a binary, it's not a spectrum. There are only two sex types. And to the point that Fasad pointed out in our previous debate, he pointed to an abnormality to try to prove that there is not a binary in sex types, but the science says there's only two. So that's the first statement, right? That is the scientific
Okay,
claim, which is
we'll
it
come
is
to
not
that.
it is not true that there are more than two sex types. It is true that in science they know that there are um, defects and abnormalities in the um, uh, male outcomes based off of a sequential process from gamete to chromosome to SRY um, to SRY gene, which dictates the actual phenotypes of male and female characteristics. But that's the science. And so there's been a lot of debate on that, and people will try to point to a chromosomal abnormality as a third type, but it's just not a third type. There are only two types. And so there's not a spectrum. And when you build a transgender ideology on top of that false premise, what ends up happening is you get the results that we've seen over the last 1.5 years. And I'll go into some of those results. The first big one is that gender affirming care clinics across the United States have been closed. And I'll just point out, I'll just point out um, a few here, just for people's situational awareness. The Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, California, gender affirming care clinic closed in July 22nd, 2025. The Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. for gender affirming care closed August 30th, 2025. The Children's Hospital of King's Daughters in Norfolk, Virginia closed in 2025. The Children's Hospital of King's Daughters in Norfolk, Virginia, I just mentioned that one. The Seattle Children's Hospital in Washington State closed. And then another Vanderbilt University gender affirming care clinic closed in 2022. Also, the only one in the UK as well. And that's because the premise that I just explained, the basis for the science is false. If it were the case that the science was conclusive, that there was a third type, then that gender affirming care would would be effective and would not be inconclusive and wouldn't lead to all of the clinics being closed. Finally,
Well.
as
Okay,
of
hold on,
well, there's a
hold
third
on.
part to the argument, then we can get into it.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
but the final part of the argument is, I'm sorry, the final part of the outcome to the argument is that, um, along with those gender affirming care clinics closing across the United States, in 2025, February, the NCAA prohibited men and women's sports. Um, Famously at Penn State, Leah Thomas was stripped of all her awards, records, and titles. They were restored to the women in the sport that was supposed to get those. They issued letters of apology to everyone who was affected, and they banned all trans women from competing in women's sports for the future. And then finally, in 2026, there will be a Supreme Court ruling that will set the precedence for Title IX and the prohibition of men and women's sports. And all of this is developed over the last year and a half since we had our last debate and confirms my initial argument, which is that
So
it's not scientific, it's a binary, and
okay,
building policy and pursuing avenues off of a false premise leads to what we've seen here.
all right. So okay, I was writing down some of the stuff you were saying. I just want to be clear. Your argument, you said clinics are closing, and the reason that they're closing is because sex is binary. The fact that clinics are closing proves that sex is binary. That's
No,
not your
no, that's not what
your
I said. I said that the science says that
why.
sex is binary, and
Okay,
that
what was
clinics
that
that
connection to the
are
clinics closing?
well,
Because
because gender affirming care has to do with the transgender idea that men can be women and women can be men, and that's
no,
not the
that's
case.
not what that is.
It
And so
is.
first, let's talk about
Yeah, have
the
you ever
sex
seen What is
being.
a Woman? Gender
I have.
professors actually
It was
stated
a
in there that a
it
woman,
was a
it,
very stupid
it
mockumentary.
wasn't stupid. It was a
It was
professor
the
that The professor stated very unequivocally when he was asked what a woman is, and he said, "A woman is someone who says they're a woman."
So no,
That is
here's
not
the problem.
scientific.
Mm, that
That is not
was the science.
scientific.
That
Yeah,
wasn't scientific because
that's
he asked what
transgender ideology.
Morpheus. Because the guy was asking what a word means. A
That's what a
definition of a
woman
word
was.
is not
Well,
scientific.
woman studies professor.
Does it? Yes, it's a woman study professor. The definition of a woman is not a scientific question.
It's an
It is.
adult female human tied to their
It's a
chromosomes.
linguistic question.
No,
And
it's just tied to the science. It's an adult female woman. That's the definition.
no,
It
because
should be
here's
very simple to answer because that's the
hold
science.
on, I let you talk like uninterrupted. Let me get a word in here. Please. Okay. So when you were saying sex is binary, first let's talk about this what's a woman thing. Okay, so with the guy, what's the guy's name who made up the mockumentary, the what's a woman thing?
Matt Walsh interviewed professors
Matt Walsh.
across the
Okay,
United States,
Matt Walsh.
experts in the field.
So Matt Walsh is not very adept in philosophy because the problem he was pointing out in What's a Woman is a problem in linguistics. The perfect definition of a word would include everything that is that thing and exclude everything that isn't. It's very difficult to do that with words. Like, you ever heard of the problem, what's a chair?
That's why we talk in rules and not exceptions. This is the problem with
Oh, so
Fasad's argument,
the
is they want to point to exceptions. We all know what we mean when we say what a woman is.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
Hold on.
everyone knows what that means.
Hold on, because like this is exception thing is important, especially when there's a lot of them. Especially when you saying there's binaries, right? There aren't exceptions with binaries. If there's an exception, then it's not binary.
Those sex types are binary. If you want to point to an abnormality, like a chromosomal abnormality, that's outside of the binary. That's an exception.
What is binary?
Sex is binary.
No. Tell me what the term binary. What does it mean?
Two things.
Yeah, having two states.
XX, XY.
It says if there's a third option, is it still binary?
Not a sex type. It's not a sex type. That's what the scientists are trying to explain to you, and people don't listen.
No.
A third option is an abnormality. It's not a sex type.
Morpheus. It's not binary. That's the point.
Nope.
If there's a third,
binary. There's not a third. There is no third. That's what the science says.
It's not. That's not what binary is. And no, that's not what the science says.
The science absolutely says
you have two science. Hold on. You have two sciences who says things that you agree with, and you're listening to them and excluding all the other scientists who are saying that sex is bimodal.
No.
That it could be mostly described
as all species have two sex types. You can point to a chromosomal abnormality. It's not a different sex type. That's the point. It's a different category. You're not listening. There are two sex types. If you point to an abnormality, it is not a new sex type. You still only have two sex types. That's the point.
No,
and you have to look at the science.
It is a sex type.
It's not a sex type. It literally says it in the definition. It's not a sex type. I didn't I didn't read the quote for you, but I can read it really quick if you'd like. No third type of sex cell exists in humans. This is 2 PhDs. No third type of sex cell exists in humans.
Right.
And therefore, there is no sex spectrum or additional sexes beyond male and female. Therefore, it is a binary. That are 2 PhDs that said that.
Yes,
and that is
and
true.
I have a paper pulled up from the National Institute of Health, which has several PhDs as well. And all of them are saying that sex is not binary.
What third sex type do they propose? I'd like to hear that.
Oh, well, I could just give it to you.
There's no third sex type in all the mammalian species.
The third sex type
there's two. One produces sperm, one produces eggs.
Morpheus, the third sex type includes about 4 or 5 dozen that we put all under the umbrella of intersex.
No, that's wrong. I know you're classifying as intersex. It's not a third sex type though. It's just an abnormality. It's like this. If you go,
More,
if you
more,
ask,
more,
if you
Morpheus,
ask a
but Morpheus,
PhD,
but you were
if you
saying that
ask,
Morpheus,
if you ask,
you're Morpheus. Hold on.
look,
You were
if you
saying
ask,
Morpheus, you're using the guys who are PhDs to back you up, right?
no, I'm not. I'm
I'm
using my
using
brain.
PhDs as well,
Well,
but
hear
your
me out though.
PhDs are right, is what you're saying.
My PhDs are right because your PhDs don't understand the fact that it's not a third sex type. They're just pointing to a different
That's
category, which is an
okay.
abnormality.
Okay,
And I'll give you an
you
example. In
and
all
something that my
physiology,
PhDs don't.
it,
Okay, all
well,
right.
no, no, it's not about that.
I'll
It's, but I'll
I'll
give you an
just give it to
example
you.
in biology. All human beings have 10 fingers. There
No,
are
you don't. That's
abnormalities.
false. That's false.
No, there are abnormalities.
No,
Like some people are born with one arm, some people are born with two heads. Those are
Morpheus,
abnormalities.
Morpheus. Words have
We
meaning.
teach the
Morpheus,
rule.
Morpheus,
We
Morpheus,
teach the
Morpheus.
rule.
More. If you say the word, all human beings have 10 fingers.
That's
If
the
I
rule.
point out one, if I
That's an
point out one
exception.
human being,
You don't
that
understand the rule
that
exception
that
distinction.
exception
The
makes the rule
fallacy,
false.
no, the
Morpheus,
fallacy
Morpheus,
you're making,
Morpheus.
what you're
Hold.
making, the fallacy you're making is the rule exception distinction. You're making a rule exception distinction fallacy.
I think I went out for a second. I lost connection.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I
what I
was
was saying,
saying,
what you can say is that you can say, generally speaking.
yeah, well, that's the rule exception distinction I'm talking
No,
about.
no, no.
There's a
You
rule
can't.
and there's an exception. There's abnormalities.
No, okay.
Science looks at the rule.
See, the rule you're making isn't a rule. That
No, I'm
nature
saying
doesn't operate by that.
nature absolutely operates by that. And I can actually break down some of the genes in intersex people that shows that actually they're actually supposed to be an XX or an XY, but there's a specific
Okay.
gene
All right.
abnormality
So
that
okay.
happens
So
that
Morpheus,
basically
how
caused a
many
malfunction. Hold
how
on, I'm not
many
even, you haven't even
exceptions?
let me
How
explain it.
Morpheus? How many exceptions? Because you don't seem to understand a concept. If you say
There's
something's
no,
a rule,
well,
if you
let me
say
break it down for
all,
you.
if you say all X or Y, if I
Let's go
point out
back
one
to,
X, Morpheus. I'm trying to show you how logic works.
I have logic
Because
too.
no, Morpheus, because this is gonna be problematic throughout the whole conversation. Because you can say, you're gonna say something, and I'm gonna point out a contradiction.
And I'm going to tell you that you're missing the rule exception distinction.
That this is gonna be
Are you back?
problematic. Yeah, I'm back.
Well, no,
What
I'm trying to tell
I'm saying
you,
is,
you
you
won't
can't
let me
keep doing this.
finish. No, you're the one that's making the mistake. I am acknowledging the rule exception distinction. I already know that that's a thing, right? So when I talk, you should understand there's a presupposition that there's a rule exception distinction. But interestingly enough, with sex, that's a different category. So it's actually not just an exception, it's not a third type. So the way mammalian species work is there's two sex types. One is egg producing, one sperm producing, and there is no third category. Anything outside of that is an abnormality. It's a malfunction in
So
the way that the process works. So you
what
cannot
sex?
categorize it as a third category. That's
Morpheus,
incorrect.
okay, Morpheus, what sex what sex would you belong to if you produce neither?
You're not a sex type. But I would say the
So
science based off of the
really, so
genes.
if someone, okay, so if someone is
Well, I'll give you
infertile,
actually there's
they
a
don't
better answer.
more.
There's a better
Hold on.
answer.
I
This is
was trying to figure
technical
out a question.
answer.
If someone
Yeah.
is infertile, they don't have a sex. Like, so if I wasn't producing
No, that's not
sperm,
true.
I wouldn't have a sex.
No. Everyone has this. This is
Okay, that's
that's a
what you said.
misnomer. No. Let me clarify real quick because it's actually more complicated than that. Most people, actually, even intersex people, have because there is some exceptions.
Okay,
So
I
because
want to
some
answer.
people,
Okay, I want to answer to my question.
but
Someone
yeah.
who produces neither reproduction sperm, right? Neither gamete. What sex?
So sex is determined by the X or XY chromosome in the cell. So I'd have to look at their cells.
Okay, and they let's say they have an X.
If they have XX or XY, then
No.
it's either male or
I didn't say
female.
XX or XY. I said X.
Then they're not a sex type. There's a malfunction.
So
It's
they
literally
don't
just a
have. So you're
malfunction.
saying, okay, so not everybody even has a sex.
Well, no, there's two sex types in the mammalian species.
Does everybody have
That's
a sex
it.
or not? Morpheus, does everybody have a sex?
Yes, everyone has a sex,
Okay, all
but
right.
some
So
people have
somebody who
malfunctions.
no, hold on, Morpheus, hold on, stop. You said everybody has a sex. All right, there's somebody who doesn't produce neither size gamete.
It's
They're
not a gamete. The gamete is a precursor to the chromosome.
they have okay,
The
fine.
gametes,
Let's say
the gametes produce a
they produce
binary
neither.
XXXY. So you're saying outside
No,
of
no,
XXXY.
Morpheus. I'm asking the question. Do they produce X? They have X. That is
There's
the
no
chromosome.
X. Is that a real thing?
Yes, it's a
I've
real
never heard
thing.
of just X.
And this is I know because because you haven't
No, I'm
put any
asking you to
research in it
validate
because
whether
just the nonsense that's coming out of your mouth because you haven't put any
it's not
research into this.
nonsense. It's just the science, man.
You've never heard of
The
someone having X.
the gametes produce a binary sex type, and then
Okay,
there
so
are abnormalities. What you're
is an
trying to
X?
point to is an abnormality.
And so
It's not a sex type.
this is the problem. Morpheus,
Sex
this is the
types are
problem.
binary. It's either XX or XY.
Hold on,
If it's anything other than that, it's not a sex type.
The problem that we're running into is that you make up some completely false rule. And when I point out how it's false, you just point to that as an exception.
It's not false.
And then pretend that it's true. No,
definition.
because I could do this. I could say everybody's black. And then when you point out someone who isn't black, that's just an exception. And it doesn't matter how many exceptions you could point to because you talk about because intersex 2.5 2.5 let's hold on.
Intersex people are not a sex type.
Morpheus.
They're malfunction.
Morpheus, I need you to hold on. I'm trying to say something here. All right. Because if you're just gonna brush off every exception to your rule as an abnormality, you've created a scenario where you're always right. Anybody can do that with anything. This is bad argumentation. This is the PhD hold on, Morpheus. It's PhDs disagree with him. I pointed out some. So stop going to that. This PhDs on both Morpheus. Stop. Hold on. So PhDs are on both sides of the aisle. So stop pretending like the PhDs were just on your side. That's just categorically false. Now,
that doesn't mean either of us are right then.
Say it again.
That doesn't mean either of us are correct.
Yeah, I'm not the one appealing to a third. You're the one that brought up the PhDs here.
Well, because I've read it and it makes sense. There's no third sex type.
Something making sense doesn't make it true.
You won't listen to the actual common sense argument, right? If there were a third sex type, it would have to have a place within the procreation process. There isn't. There's only two. It's a binary in the procreation process. There's a sperm creator and an egg creator. In other species, other than mammals, there are third sex types, but not in mammals. Mammals have two sex types.
So then I ask you,
what you're talking about is an abnormality.
So they do. Does that mean they have no sex?
It means that there's a misfunction.
No, Morpheus, answer the question. Asking you a question. Does it mean they have no sex? Yes or no?
It means there's a faulty sex. It didn't develop correctly in the fetus.
It's a sex.
Basically what happened was
it's a false sex.
I'll give you an example of so what happens is there's in the process that when the gametes produce the X or XY chromosome, what ends up happening is there's a gene that's supposed to basically build some of these parts in the person, whether it's a male or female. And when the instructions for the gene, actually I have it here so I can read it because I'm referencing the.
I don't want to get stuck on a sex thing because this scenario you're just not going to leave. This
is a very clear example. If you're asking what happens,
no, you're not answering my question. I asked you was a pretty straightforward question. Someone who doesn't produce any gametes is an X, and you won't answer
right here. I'm giving you the answer. You won't listen. I'm telling you right here. The SRY gene plays a key role in several intersex conditions by affecting sex development through its influence on gonadal formation and sexual differentiation. In intersex people, mutations, deletions, or translocations involving the SRY gene can cause atypical development of sex characteristics. Basically, Swur syndrome.
Morpheus. Just tell me what's the Morpheus?
The point is that
I want you to answer the question, and then go to the lengthy explanation. Somebody with X That's the chromosome. What is your sex? Tell me and then explain.
They're not a sex type. They fall
So,
outside of the category. It's an abnormality.
now, a few minutes ago, I asked you if everybody had a sex, and you said yes. Now, somebody with X doesn't have a sex. You are
That's
contradicting yourself. So,
no,
hold on, because this conversation is going to be very difficult. Not only because you keep interrupting me, but also because you keep contradicting yourself.
I'm trying.
I want you to pick a side. So not everybody has a sex.
I'll give you the explanation. Let me explain where I was wrong.
I want to say
I misspoke.
Does everybody have a sex? Yes or no?
Yes, but let me explain why.
Okay, so with X's exist.
So you have to let me explain why. It sounds like a contradiction at first, but it's because there's a sequential argument and it transitions at a certain point during the sequence. Every human being is supposed to have an XX or an XY chromosome, but sometimes an abnormality happens during the development process, and they end up with.
You're already messing up. You're already messing up.
I'm not messing up. I'm trying to explain
yes, you are.
Why. Everyone's supposed to have a sex.
Morpheus. Now Morpheus. Stop. Now you're putting a prescription on nature. You said hold on. You said every human being is supposed to have an X or a Y.
Yes, then, because we have two
according
sex
to who? According
to the actual definitions of what a chromosomal abnormality is. It wouldn't be an abnormality if it was normal. Are abnormalities normal? Why would you call it an abnormality if it wasn't normal? The rule is XX or XY. This is basic.
Nature has no Morpheus. Hold on. Nature has no obligation to listen to our definitions. So now you're over here saying what chromosomes
Science is
people
descriptive, not prescriptive. It's describing the nature of reality.
Hold on. Morpheus, hold on. Stop. Morpheus, stop. All right. So you said science is descriptive. I agree. The argument you just made is a prescriptive scientific argument. Morpheus, you literally said that everyone stop. Hold on. I'm trying to say something. You literally said that everyone is supposed to have XX or XY. That is a prescriptive argument.
Like two
that
eyeballs.
Is not the way science works.
Yeah.
That's
science
just
observes,
wrong.
No, science observes, and they say, hey, humans are supposed to have two eyeballs. If they don't, it's an abnormality.
That's wrong.
It's not wrong. That's how science works.
What do you mean?
They see the world and then they describe it.
Who says humans are supposed to have two eyes?
What do biologists do?
That's
who says humans are supposed to biologists say?
That is not a science. It is not a scientific statement.
Are humans supposed to have a heart?
Hold on. It is not a scientific statement to say that
humans have blood. Should humans have a heart?
What did you say?
Biologists
humans
look at
do
nature.
Have blood. They do have
biologists. Yes, biologists look at nature and they say, look, humans have two eyeballs.
Not the problem.
That's what they teach in anatomy and physiology. However, there are abnormalities. Now, in the case of sex,
hold on. Stop. I want to go to this prescriptive. Because you're messing up from the beginning.
Anyone who's listening to this conversation,
it is easy. Morpheus. If you don't understand this stuff, it can sound easy. I know what an abnormality is.
So what is an abnormality?
I want you to hold on. I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to go there because the point I'm making.
Because that would make my point.
No, because you won't answer my question.
This is simple. I already answered.
Morpheus, please don't make me mute you. Okay, look, I have it's a really simple question, right? You said that science is descriptive, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is it a descriptive proposition to say that everyone ought to have two eyeballs?
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't make an ought proposition.
You literally said that.
No,
you did that as an analogy to the chromosomes.
You said ought. I know what an ought is.
You said should.
No. So when biologists look at humans, they say humans have two eyeballs. It is an is claim, not an ought claim. So when someone has more than two eyeballs,
so earlier when you said
earlier
you said
my argument,
Morpheus. So I don't know what your argument is, but I know I see there's a bunch of I see you trying to make the argument. Morpheus.
Scientists look at human beings and they say this is what human beings are.
Hold on, bro. Hold on.
They describe abnormalities.
Hold on. Morpheus. I'm not going to let you continue if your argument is built on a fallacy because everything you say after that doesn't matter. if you start with a fallacy, we have a problem. We cannot go any forward. We can't go forward. Okay, now you said that humans are supposed to have either XX or XY.
That's what science observes.
Morpheus, science does not observe that humans are supposed to have a chromosome. Science observes that humans have chromosomes. All right. Yes. So now when somebody, no, hold on. Now when somebody's Morpheus, stop, hold on. So when somebody has an XX or an XY, you'll call that normal. And when somebody has something different from that, you're saying, well, they should have one of these two. Therefore, they're an abnormality. That is not science.
That's literally the definition. How do you define abnormality?
That is not literally the definition.
How do you define abnormality?
Abnormality is a deviation
from the rule, which is binary. That's my point. So you just made my point for me.
No, it's not. The rule is that it's bimodal.
No, the rule is that it's binary because there's only two sex
it's not.
types.
That's wrong. That's not what the word binary means.
So give me an example give me an example then. Give me an example.
I gave you one. X.
That's a what?
X.
That's a what?
I kept asking you what it is. You can't tell me.
It's an abnormality. I told you. And you're confirming my argument for me.
Morpheus, and you said that they have. You said that all people have sex.
No.
Morpheus,
you said that.
Morpheus, hold on. You said that everyone has a sex. There are people that have X, and then you said that somebody has X.
I know you get the point.
No,
I know you get the point.
Your point, it has so many fallacies.
It's very clear. So many fallacies. It's just a definition.
You
literally, I looked up abnormality and it said chromosomal abnormality. There's a rule, and the rule is that there's two sexes in mammalian species. There's two sex types.
Is that prescriptive? Hold on. Is that prescriptive or descriptive?
That's a description of mammalian species.
Okay,
by the scientific community.
Okay, so what is describing? No more. So if there's only two sets, what is that called?
Two sex types, binary.
Okay, now if there are multiple sex types, but most of them, stop. If there was multiple sex types and most of them only exist in two, what do you call it?
There are multiple sex types, it would be non-binary. But this isn't the case for us. We're mammals. We only have two.
Okay, we're gonna move on from this point. Yeah, I don't know what else to do, man. All right, so let's talk about the NCAA ban. You said that's based on science. Did you look into this?
Yeah, no, I looked into all this.
Okay.
All of these things are outcomes from
I looked at, so in the Leah Thomas, when she got banned, this had nothing to do with science. This happened because of politics. The Trump administration, through the Department of Education, was investigating her school.
You know what you're doing? You're like 4 steps into a process. You didn't even talk about the first process.
I'm talking about the facts.
Why was she in the sport? Why was she in the sport to begin with?
While she's swimming?
Let's focus in on that, the beginning. Why was a man in a woman's sport?
So she's a trans woman.
She's a man.
Stop. She's a trans woman. Stop misgendering people. I thought you say you had trans friends? Because I can tell you right now, you don't have trans friends.
No, I'm saying
you're any trans person you're not a friend to them. You have no trans friends. There may be some trans people that think you're their friend, but you're not. Not if you're going to keep misgendering them. Okay, so Leah Thomas, you don't have to like. You don't have to like her. I'm objecting. I'm objecting that you just keep misgendering. I just want to have Morpheus. What I want to do, Morpheus. What I want to do, Morpheus. What I want to do, Morpheus. Hold on. What I want to do is just have a conversation while have a conversation about people while respecting them.
Well, can I tell you why I'm saying she's a man? Because that's what the science says. If she asked me to use her pronouns and her name, I would respectfully do that. But if we're going to talk about reality and science, the fact that she was in the sport in the first place is because we didn't understand the difference between men and women. So that's the reason. Because you guys didn't understand the science, which has now been corrected. and about to be ruled on by the Supreme Court in 2026.
Okay, I'll just move on.
Again,
So now you
this will be
said
a dark age for
you
us,
said okay. Let's talk
an
about
intellectual
the
dark
ban
age.
with Leah Thomas. You said that is based on
It's
I guess
predicated on
cutting.
gender ideology because they thought men and women were no different from each other. They're the same thing.
That's
Transgender women are
false.
no different than women. That's why they let them
Who
compete.
says that men and women are no different from each other? Who said that?
Transgender ideology people.
No, you don't. That's false.
Yeah, they do. But then why would they put them in the same sport? If they knew there were differences, then
That
why would they do that? And why would they
because
take
there's
away the rights of women?
because it's a
It's
trans.
an
Hold on,
ideological belief.
Morpheus. Stop.
It's not a
Look,
scientific
you
belief.
know, I see what Morpheus because you have no understanding of their position. Of course there
now
are
it's been
Morpheus.
revoked.
No, of course there are differences between man and woman, and they agree with that because if they didn't, they would use the same word for each of them. So what you're saying is categorically false and just unbelievably stupid.
It's
That
not
is
stupid.
not their position.
You
They
think that
wouldn't
women
even
and men should be in the
have.
same sport?
Say it again.
You think men and women should compete together against each other?
In what sport?
Well, this one we're talking about swimming.
Oh, okay, and
You think
college
that there's
swimming and
no?
an individual. So okay, because first you said
He
sport.
beat a bunch of women
So
because
so
she's a
Morpheus.
man.
Okay, to answer your question,
That's how that
if
works.
if men and women should compete against each other, the question is, the
No, they
answer is
shouldn't.
no. That's
That's why we've
stupid.
always had different leagues.
No, it depends.
What about MMA?
I would say no in most cases with that, but
Then why is
it
women beating?
depends.
Why is men?
But
Why is she beating other women?
is what
That's why they had to return the trophies to the women because she stole them from them because
this
she's
is
a man.
more. Hold on. Like,
And that's
all
why
right.
all this stuff is being
Okay,
overturned.
stop. I really want to let's stay on topic here.
The university is
Okay,
very liberal, by the way, and they
let's.
still took it away.
Who cares? I want to stay on topic here
That's really bad.
because it had nothing to do. That had nothing to do with that. It was pressure from the Trump administration
No,
because of
they
pressure
made
from
the
the Trump
decision.
administration.
It doesn't matter. They didn't have to do anything he said.
Yeah, they didn't have to, and then risk losing aid.
The NCAA didn't have to do it either, but they did it.
Yeah, at the risk of
Are
losing aid.
universities predominantly liberal when they poll the administration and the faculty? Are they
Hold
predominantly
on,
liberal?
stop. Hold on.
The
So,
answer is yes.
hold on.
In the most
I
liberal
want to
environments,
hold
they
on.
still took away
Morpheus.
the man's
I want to
trophies.
make it clear here. The reason that Leah Thomas got banned was because it was pressure from the Department of Education about losing funds. Do you realize that her school was under investigation and was about to lose funds? Kind of like
So
what's
why would they
happening to
be
Harvard.
pressured?
Because because Trump's understanding of hold on, I'm trying to explain to you. The reason is because Trump's understanding of trans people is about as poor as yours. That is why.
So it had nothing to do with her being a man and stealing trophies from women. That didn't have anything to do with it.
It had all to do with pressure from the current administration.
And nothing to do with the fact that she's a man. Nothing to do with the fact that the NCAA changed their policies.
Hold on. Let's think. Let's use our brains here, right?
What percentage?
Hold on. I want to play into your bigotry here.
Would you give 10%?
But Morpheus, hold up. So
bigotry.
she was a man. Hold on. She was a man prior to the current administration taking office, right? Yes, yeah. No, come on. This was a really easy question. Come on, Morpheus.
I was reading something else. So yes.
Okay, I need you to pay attention. Are you reading this stuff the whole time I'm talking? Is that why you're not answering my question?
No, I'm saying she's a man. Yeah.
Okay, that's not what I asked. She was a man prior to the current administration, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if that was the reason, she would have been out. She would have never got in the first place.
No, because the ideologues wanted to.
Now let's look at the facts.
That's the fact.
About 6 weeks before Leah Thomas and all trans athletes have this blanket ban put on them, the Trump administration put in an investigation on that school.
Yeah, rightly so. There's a lot of bad things.
Okay, no, but hold on.
A lot of women were violated.
I know Trump. I mean, hey, Morpheus, I
Did
know you
Trump
agree
tell
with
them
it.
to issue a
I know
policy?
you, Morpheus. I know you agree with it. I'm trying to stick to the point here about why the ban happened in the first place. It wasn't because the science changed. It wasn't because all the people who had supported Leah Thomas all of a sudden had some alt-right awakening.
No, the
That's
science
not
didn't
what happened.
change. The
What
science didn't
what
change. That's why
happened?
she
No,
beat all the women.
what happened was pressure from the Trump administration.
And the fact that she's a man and she beat all the women. That
That
also hurts.
had nothing to do with it. And
Oh,
so
that has nothing to do with it. So the fact that
no.
she took the trophies from the women,
What do you mean she did, what
and
do
they
you
had
mean
to
she
be
took the trophies
returned.
from the woman? The
She
trophies
beat all the women. She had several trophies that had to be returned to women.
yes,
And
because of what the Trump
and they issued
administration did.
apologies to all the women. That wasn't forced on by Trump. They could have just simply just stopped allowing women to compete in men's sports, but they didn't. Or, I'm sorry,
Yes.
stop men
So
from competing in women's
yes,
sports.
okay.
They went
Yes.
further than that.
So the Trump
They went much
administration,
further, actually.
more so the Trump administration, regardless of whether you agree with it, pressured them into banning trans athletes.
Did they
So
tell them to issue out
Morpheus, so
apologies
when
to everyone?
the point, and you seem to agree with me. So what I'm saying is, don't come over here lying, saying that the science has changed. That's a
No,
lie.
the
What
science was
changed? No, what changed was the politics.
no, no. Let me explain something real
Where
quick. The
tell me what
science never
science changed? Tell
let
me.
me let me explain. The science never changed. The science was always the truth. That's why she took all the trophies from the women because she's different than a woman. See, the ideologues, the gender
This is
ideologues
such a
wanted to
stupid
say,
argument.
hold up,
Joe,
this is
you
the
keep saying
truth.
she took trophies from a woman.
Let me
The trophy
explain.
didn't
You
belong.
won't
The
let me
trophy didn't
explain.
belong
Let me
to
explain.
anyone.
Let me explain. I'll illustrate it really quickly. The gender ideologues wanted to say that women and men were no different, but what ended up happening is she went in there and beat all of them because she's a man and she's
That's a
superior in
lie.
physical
That's a
sports.
lie. So
It's not
they don't
why.
say that
That's
men
why
and
they had to
women
take
aren't.
her trophies and give them back to the women.
So
Women can be,
Morpheus,
men can be women, women can be men.
hold on, Morpheus, hold on. Do you understand that a trans woman is someone whose gender identity is woman, but their biological sex is something else, such as male?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so if that's the case, then they can't possibly think that men and women are the same.
No, they think that there's no difference, that you can just swap them out.
No, but how would you define what would be the difference between a trans woman and a
You want me
cis
to
woman?
quote a woman studies professor?
Morpheus,
When he was
stop,
asked what a woman
Morpheus. I'm
was,
asking you, Morpheus. I'm asking you a
anyone who
question.
says they're a
Morpheus,
woman.
I don't want to quote. I don't want to
That's
quote.
their
I don't,
ideology.
Morpheus. I don't care about the
Why
quote.
don't you want to hear about their ideology?
I want you to answer my question.
They state
Because
it very clearly.
Morpheus, I ask you a question and then you bring up some stupid quote. And when I
It's
don't
not
want to hear
stupid.
the
It's very
quote,
relevant.
you're trying to say that I'm trying to shut you down. No,
Well,
I just want you to
that's
answer
what
the
the
question.
ideologues say.
Answer the question, Morpheus. Answer the question. Okay. What is according to the gender ideologues, what is the difference between a cis woman and a trans woman?
They would say anyone who says they're a woman is a woman. That's what the
No,
professor says.
that's wrong. That's false.
Well, that's just what the professor says.
No,
I don't
Morpheus.
know what they would say other than what they tell me.
You know what, and I believe that. I believe that everything in
Other
this
than what they
conversation
say.
has told me you don't know what they would say. So
Well, no,
a
I said
cis
other
woman,
than what they tell me, other than what they say.
you
I'm
haven't been
quoting the
listening to.
professor.
If,
Everyone's seen that clip, by the way. It's
hey,
like
let me
I'm not
break
the
this
only person who
down. Let me
watched
break
it.
this
Did you
down.
watch the documentary?
I watched the What's a Woman thing.
Yes, those were
Yes,
professors that he interviewed. They
it
stated very
was.
clearly what they thought.
I felt my brain just smooth over just watching it. Now,
But
here's
they
here's the
gave
point
you
that
the
I'm.
definition, didn't
No,
they?
Morpheus.
I remember the definition.
Morpheus. Look. I'm not gonna let you keep jumping over if you're not gonna answer my question.
I
Like,
just told you.
if you were to more stop. Nope. If you were to interrupt with an answer to my question,
I did.
I would be more than happy to just let you continue.
I answered it for
that's
you.
why no, you're not answering the question.
Anyone who says they're a woman.
Hold on. So
A
what's the
woman who
difference?
says someone.
I'm not
A
asking
woman
what a
is.
woman is. Hey,
Oh,
listen. I didn't ask you what a woman is. Please pay attention. This
why
is
are you
why I'm
doing?
getting so aggravated. I asked you specifically, what is the difference according to the gender ideologues? What is the difference between a cis woman and a trans woman?
A cis woman is someone who's born with the chromosomes of a woman. A trans woman is someone who's born with the chromosomes of a man that
Okay,
identifies as woman.
now,
But
since the
the
gender, hold up,
professors
stop.
say
No.
anyone who says
No,
they're a woman is a
no,
woman.
stop.
So it
No,
doesn't
I'm not
matter.
gonna let you continue. I want you to
Yeah,
continue.
but your
Answer my
argumentation doesn't
question.
even follow
You
because I just
don't know
told you what their definition is.
Morpheus. You're not listening. You don't know what the argumentation is because you don't even know what the flaw I'm about to point out.
Oh, you're
Now,
talking about
you don't know. So let me
you're talking
continue.
about
Stop.
sexual preference?
Stop. No, I'm not talking about sexual preference.
Okay.
Please stop. No. Morpheus, please listen to what I'm saying. All right. Now, you said that according to those gender ideologues, there is no distinction between man and woman. The point that I'm making is that
I quoted
no,
his
stop,
exact quote.
Morpheus, stop. You
Just
said
here's the
that.
exact quote.
You said no. I don't want the quote. I'm talking about what you just said. You
Yes,
said
because if you can say
Morpheus,
anyone's a
stop.
woman, then there's no
Morpheus, I am
distinction.
Morpheus. Look. Okay. Do you understand? We've never been on a show with just you and I. Do you understand why it's like Facade will like yell, cuss you out, and all that kind of stuff? Because you're doing this stuff. You're cutting people off. You're not listening to the questions.
Because
You
you're
don't even
spitting
know what
things
I'm
out.
asking. You over here trying to guess, and you say it again.
Well, I'm just saying, like you'll reframe my argument kind of like a straw man.
I'm not
and then
reframing
you'll start arguing against it.
Morpheus, because I was trying to point out, I was trying to make a point, and you kept interrupting me, and then I was like, "Well, if you know the point, what is it?" And then you said some stupid shit about sexual preferences, and that's not the point I was making at all. Now, hold up. So you said that according to the gender ideologues, there is no difference between men and women.
No,
That's
you're
why.
restating my claim.
No. That is why
I gave you the quote by the professor. I
did.
said that he said that anyone who says they're a woman is a woman, meaning that even if
That's
you had
not
XX or
Morpheus.
XY
I didn't ask you about.
chromosomes,
I didn't ask about that
it
quote.
wouldn't matter.
Morpheus, I
There's
didn't
no
ask about that quote.
distinction.
No, Morpheus, I didn't ask about the quote. You made a general statement about the left-wing gender ideologues saying that for them there is no distinction between men and women, and the evidence you gave for that was the fact that trans athletes are allowed to compete in sports. Men are allowed to compete in women's sports because there is no difference. That is what you said.
No.
That is what you said.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay,
I
now
did say that.
you just said that. Now you don't actually believe that, or maybe you just don't understand why that belief is a contradiction. Because I asked you what's the difference according to the gender ideologues between a trans woman and a cis woman, and the difference between them is based on a distinction between man and woman. Do you understand?
Then why did he give that definition? He should have just said
Well,
that.
for more, you kept cutting me off. I was trying to.
No, not you.
I was trying to
I'm talking
point
about the
this out.
professor.
I was trying to point
Why
this
did the
out.
professor not say that?
I don't know who the professor is. I never met the person. I don't know why they said that instead of something else.
Because he's super
Maybe
famous
the
now.
professor said that instead of saying what I would say because they're not me. But I can't help that. I could just point. I
agree with
to
you
how
that there's
logic works.
differences in sexes. Absolutely.
Morpheus, stop. We're not in agreement here. What was going on was you was lying about the people you disagree with. You said that they don't see a difference between man and woman
based off of their own definition. I'm just using their definition.
No, you're quoting one single guy, and you said this.
He's a professor. Why would you not quote him?
Who?
He's literally a professor of women's studies. Do you want to know his name?
So why would you quote him why would you quote him as like some spokesperson for all people?
Well, hear me out. He's a professor, number one. Number two, he's famous because he was in the documentary. And number three, I'm not trying to get. I don't know what's in their minds, so I'm taking their words and I'm presenting them to you. It seems like they want to hold.
Is there a right-wing person?
They want to hold. Well, hold up. It seems like they want to hold contradictory points in themselves. They want to hold contradictory positions. At the one hand, they say there's no difference. I'll tell you. On one hand, they say there's no difference. A woman can be anyone who says they're a woman, and then at the same point, you just pointed out that they make a distinction. That's a contradiction in and of itself. I've always been clear in my point. The contradiction. There's a clear distinction.
The
I belong
contradiction,
to the one who's muddled the waters, which has caused all these issues.
the contradiction is in the imaginary argument happening in
If it
your
was
head.
scientifically based, the
The fact
NCAA
that the
wouldn't be
fact
rolling
of
it
the
back. The Supreme Court wouldn't be rolling it back. The scientific community wouldn't be rolling it back. The gender affirming care folks wouldn't be rolling it back.
Look, if that was their actual position, it would be a contradiction. What this actually is the imaginary argument in your head. You believe
the professor.
The professor didn't.
Everyone's
Professor
seen this
didn't say that.
documentary. I don't know why you think this is crazy. Literally, there's a whole interview with him, and it's very clear what he says.
So what?
So I'm not making up anything.
I didn't say you're making up stuff.
You say
What? At least not about. You're not making up that. You're not making up that quote. You're just straw manning their position.
Not.
No, yes,
I'm not.
You are.
That's if I was straw man, I would say a different claim.
More.
Straw man is when you.
I'm about to start exercising this mute button because this is getting ridiculous. All right, now, so let's talk about this Matt Walsh stuff. All right, I want you to tell me, what is a chair?
Let me look it up. What is a chair? I always go back to definitions. A chair is a piece of furniture designed for one person to sit on, typically featuring one or more legs, a flat or slightly angled seat, and a backrest.
Cool. So I have a chair that's designed for two people to sit on. Is it not a chair?
Well, it says typically. So, yeah, there's chairs that can.
But
you
said typically. I mean, there's so many different chairs. That
yes, but typically it's for one person. And then if it's bigger, you have
it kind of just depends. Like a lot of car seats.
Yeah, but a chair is different than someone identifying as a woman. It's not a woman. Those are
no, it's not. Things. So when I try to point, no.
Matt Walsh's documentary.
Hold on. And what if what if it doesn't have any legs at all? Is it still a chair?
I mean, it would be. Hold up, real quick. Let me look at the definition.
All right. Okay. Here. So, all right. More.
I used to have this conversation in college because I majored in music, and you had one group of people that were very attached to definitions, and then you had another group of people and they hated definitions. And I always used to make the argument, look, this was actually Wynton Marsalis' argument, who's a famous trumpet player at the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. But if you change the recipe too much, you can't call it a chocolate chip cookie, right? At some point it turns into something else. And definitions are good because you need them to be able to ground yourself so that we can replicate things. But yeah, that's a great, that's a great thing to debate. But at the end of the day, it's like if you change a chocolate chip cookie so much, at some point it's not a chocolate chip cookie. It's a oatmeal cookie, or it's a sugar cookie. But
so here's the
utility in having definitions for sure.
So I'm not.
But
saying I'm not. So the point of this.
Though,
hold on. The point of this exercise is not to say whether you ought or ought not to have definitions. The point of the exercise is to show the limitations on definitions.
Yeah, that's why you have to create.
So here's
a general.
Marv, hold on. All right, so because the issue is that you could. With the chair thing, you can do this with anything, like a horse, right? You can do this with anything.
One second, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was telling my dog to calm down.
Okay. So the issue that I was pointing to was that women like horse, chair, and a bunch of other things, a wheel, a ball, right, are difficult to define in a way that would exclude everything that isn't that and include everything that is. You're always going to be able to point to exceptions.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. So that guy, unfortunately, he's a professor. Most of the time, professors don't really do debate. So they just wasn't prepared for that conversation.
Yeah, but the
Now,
traditional definition of woman is just adult female human,
so
right?
now,
And that has a
no,
that has an empirical
no, 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 no.
value assigned to
It's
it.
no
That's
because
what it is.
because what he has done is define woman by another term that is also ambiguous, right? Female. Now, you found a you've constructed this loophole through
It's not a
your
loophole.
no true Scotsman fallacy. You say
It's not a
all
loophole.
females have XX chromosome, and then when I point out
Abnormalities, exactly.
exceptions to the rule,
Something
you
other
get
than the two
you get
types.
to just say, since that's an abnormality, you get to ignore it
It's
and
not
then say
ignoring it.
your
It's just not a
rule
type.
universally applies. So the problem
Mammals have two sex types. That's just what
so
it
more
is.
morphous. So if you use that definition, that means you exclude someone who would be a definite who would by your
They wouldn't be a
definition
sex
be the
type.
woman.
They wouldn't be a functional sex type.
Okay,
There's
so
only two functional
let's
sex
say
types.
somebody has X chromosomes.
Not a functional sex
They're
type.
not female, right?
Well, they're not XX or XY, so they're not two of the functional sex
So
types.
I'm
They're an
asking, are they?
abnormality.
No, hold on, stop. I'm asking, are they
They're
female?
a human being. Absolutely.
I didn't.
They're a human
Okay,
being.
please stay on topic. I didn't ask if they were a human being. I'm asking, is it a female?
If it has an XX or XY,
If
it's
it
either a
has an
male or
X
female.
for like the 5th time,
Yeah.
if it has an X chromosome,
There's actually an answer to this. I
and
tried to give it to
will
you
you please
earlier.
answer to my question?
It's
It is so
complicated.
simple.
No, it's
Yes or
not.
no?
I tried to answer this earlier and it was complicated. So you'd have to look at where the malfunction took place in the sequence. So if it's a malfunction in the let me look real quick because there's lots of different places where the malfunction can take place. If it's a malfunction in the SRY gene, then you can determine whether or not that was meant to be an XX or XY outcome. But so
Now,
like they could have XX or XY, but then they have, say, like they didn't develop the male anatomy that they were supposed to
so
develop.
you're saying
So you can show where the
hold
actual
on.
mechanism was faulty in the gene,
So some
in
X
the phenotype
hold on.
example.
So some X's are male and some X's are female.
So the way the biologist would probably explain
Morpheus,
it
yes or
is,
no? Can you answer the
well,
question?
no, I'm trying to explain it.
It sounds like
The
you're
way the
saying
biologist
no
would
no
try
no
to
no no no
explain
no
it
no no
is that
stop. Do what I want. Do what you did earlier. What I because I don't want you going to a
I can
diatribe and never
only,
answer. Stop. No.
I'm
Before you
trying to
explain,
explain it, but
I'm
it's
trying to
not as
coach you.
simple as yes or no.
No, I want you to coach. I'm trying to coach you on your explanation because when I ask you these questions, you go in a diatribe and you leave me not
Because there's not a
understanding your
simple
answer.
answer. There's
What
not a
what?
simple answer. You have
Okay,
to look at
so
the sequence. So there's a
I
sequence
know,
of
I
events that
understand.
takes
No,
place.
Morpheus. I understand that you look at the sequence. The point
Yes.
that I'm making is that the question I'm asking now is that depending on the sequence,
Yeah.
there are some X's that are female and some X's that are male. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct. Yes. Correct.
Okay, so you don't determine the sex by the chromosomes.
That's wrong. No, the sex is determined by the gamete outcome, which is chromosomes, binary. Now, what happens is sometimes in the sequence of production, there's a malfunction, and then it ends up being a chromosomal abnormality. But you can look at the very beginning stages of the sequence and see where was it going to be an X or an XY, and then you could determine after that what would be the best outcome for that person
What if
who was
someone's
supposed to be a female or a
XXY?
male. You would have to look at the sequence and see what specifically went wrong. Then you could say, hey, this was supposed to be a male, but there was this issue,
So
this
now
malfunction in the gene expression,
and now we
and
run
then
into
you
the
could
same.
actually,
Now we run
well,
into the same problem that we were running into earlier,
it's
right?
not a different sex type though. It's just a malfunction in the process.
Morpheus, because you're saying
Oh
now
shoot, we got 1 minute left.
hold on. You got to go at 8.
I have to go at 8. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know you had to go at 8. All right. Well, I guess we'll
I
just
thought these were 1 hour long. Is it longer than that?
yeah. We usually go like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I need to go because I got a lot of chores to do, unfortunately.
All good.
But I was in the last minute. I just want to say to you, do you not find this kind of cultural phenomenon that we're going through interesting? It does seem interesting, right? Like it seems like we're going
I
through a
I
re-examination of our fundamental beliefs.
no, I think what's going to happen here 50 years from now, people are going to look at you the way they look at people who were opposed to the civil rights movement 50 years ago. That's the way I think they're gonna look at it. They look at
Really?
people, people who hated gay people like 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, well, I don't
I,
hate gay
I think
people.
this is what I think they're gonna look at you.
No, I believe in. I will say this as a last point, not to try to prove anything, but I think that there's value in understanding the truth of the matter, and there's also value in making sure that people who are not in the XX and XY categories have the utmost rights as possible, that people respect their humanity. I grew up, one of my closest family
We
friends was a gay guy, and he mentored me. I have no issues with gay people, I have no issues with trans people, but at the end of the day, we do have to say what's factual and what's not. And what I'm saying doesn't mean that these people shouldn't have rights, the full extent
I don't think
of the
anybody was
law.
saying that. Dan
Yeah,
Shire said the
but I
perfect
also don't
comment.
think that.
He said he said, sure, it's interesting, except for your blind spot for logic.
Okay,
That's
that's
what,
fine.
because
I'm sure
we
people
point
will
out the
disagree with it.
fallacies, stuff it just falls apart because you were throwing in
No,
prescriptions again. Remember you
no,
when I
I know
asked you,
this. I know the
I
distinction
I
between
asked you if someone
description and prescription.
I asked you what if the person has X, and you say you have to determine which chromosomes they should have
Like a
had,
yeah,
right?
geneticist. Like
That's
I just
prescriptive.
yeah, like
Can't
so
do
like
that
I
with
just
science.
well no no you well what you can yeah you absolutely can look and say hey this person was supposed to have two eyeballs but here was the gene that had the malfunction that only left them with one, right? Or here was the gene expression that was going to give them autism. Every baby that's born gets a genetic test, and they can tell you where the abnormalities are going to be. That's part of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
your
but you don't get
typical
you
assessment.
don't judge from that. That's not a scientific question.
It's well, no, it's not a value proposition.
How, how many?
It's an is description. So
It's
it's
not
saying,
a
hey,
is.
no, it's
It's
saying this
that
is how
is
the
literally an ought.
no
If you
no
said
no no. An
how
ought is
many
a value
eyeballs should someone
proposition.
have?
I'm not. No, no. An ought is a value proposition. The science is going to say that this malfunction caused this abnormality. That is not an ought description. That is an is description.
You're calling it a malfunction
It
because
is a
it did
malfunction,
something other than what you expected.
other than what's
It,
supposed to be, what's supposed to happen.
what is it supposed to be? There's no
Well, I'll give you an
Morpheus. You're
example.
so many
I'll give you an
odds. Oh my
example.
god.
No, this is easy. If you're supposed to be able to procreate, then you should have an XX and XY chromosome. If there's an abnormality, you can't procreate,
Yeah,
and
the
humans
problem
cannot
is
continue to procreate the species.
the
Is that a
problem
problem to
is
you or not?
the problem is the
Is that a
proposition that
faulty mechanism or not? When you can't procreate,
your
that's a
question
problem.
is fallacious
It's
because
not
in
fallacious.
the premise was if you're supposed to procreate, there's the problem.
Organisms aren't supposed to procreate. Biological organisms aren't supposed to procreate. Come on, man.
Morpheus, Morpheus.
That's
That's
crazy.
not what I said. You
We
said they're
don't exist
supposed
if
to.
we don't
Now,
procreate.
Morpheus, I'm not saying they're not supposed to. I'm pointing out the fallacy in you
No,
saying that they are supposed to.
science says that we're supposed to procreate.
No, it
Right? That's
doesn't.
what they
That is a
observe.
lie. You don't know what
They,
science is. Science does
no
not say that we are
science,
supposed to
science,
procreate. I'm
science
sorry.
looks at the no
There are
science
no
looks at the
shoulds in
empirical.
science.
No, science looks at the empirical world and they observe procreation. And if they see something that's not procreating, they say that's strange. That's an abnormality. That doesn't
That
mean
doesn't
that you're making a
it
value
doesn't mean that it
proposition.
should be
It doesn't
something
mean it's
else.
good. I'm not saying it's good or bad. That's a value proposition. I'm saying
I didn't say
they're
you're
observing
saying,
the
but you're saying
science.
it should do
Science is
something else.
no, it's yeah, because you can look at the science and say, well, this flight should have taken off, but it didn't. The
You're
mathematics said
saying
was supposed to fly, but it didn't.
here's
That's not a value
Morpheus.
proposition. See, you're not
A
even
ab
getting the value proposition
Morpheus.
correct. You've actually gotten this wrong.
Morpheus. A
Anyone who actually
abnormality.
knows logic knows they
Here,
can look at this and say, I didn't say it was good or bad. I said
um,
it's a description of
Morpheus.
the world,
A good
both
example.
biological and physical.
Morpheus. A good example of an abnormality is Shaquille O'Neal.
Chromosomes.
His height. He's
No, if you look
7'1".
up the
That's
definition of
Morpheus. Stop.
chromosomes,
Hold on. That's an abnormality. He is 7'1". What height should he be?
according to the science,
Yes, according to the science, what height should Shaquille O'Neal be?
so science would look at the data and then give an aggregate based off of data. It's a
So,
because the fact that
so
he's an abnormality means that there's a
Morpheus.
standard,
The answer
right?
is
You can't have an
Morpheus. The
abnormality without a
answer is
standard.
science
The
wouldn't
answer
say
is you don't.
anything. No,
The
the
answer is that
science, the more
science would
science,
say no. Science would
science could
say
look at the average
science. No,
height of a human
exactly.
being.
They wouldn't give you a value proposition. So you're conflating these.
You're
It's really
giving
simple.
value.
Science would
You're
not say
giving
it's good or
value
bad.
propositions.
Science would not say it's good or bad. That is a conflation
We're
of a
not
value
saying good or
proposition.
bad.
Science is
Morpheus.
saying if it's an abnormality. An abnormality can only be defined insofar that you have an aggregate average. You're conflating these two. My
I'm not
logic is
conflating
sound.
things.
It's
You don't
very
know what
simple.
science is. You think science is a should.
No, I didn't. I never said that.
You've
That's
been
simple.
saying should like the past 5 minutes, and then you were
No.
saying it 30 minutes ago, and I kept
So,
correcting you on it. That science doesn't have shoulds.
If
They
they
don't
have
have
a speed of
oughts.
no, ought and a should is two different things. A value proposition is something good or bad.
A
What
ought and a
science
should
will
are
say,
functionally equivalent.
no, they're not. And what science would say
I
is,
ought to
hey,
go to the
this
store.
is
I should go to the store. Give me
no,
a
those are
sentence
two
where
different things.
you can say where you say
I'll give
should,
you an
and I
example,
could
but
have
you keep
replaced it
cutting
with
me
ought.
off. I'm trying to give you an example here. Like, so they know the speed of light. So they'll say, well, this speed should travel at this, light should travel at this speed. If it doesn't, then they have to go back and look and see, figure out what's wrong, right? They do this
No.
all the time in
No, no,
science.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
absolutely. They do this
No,
all the time.
that's
Yep,
that's not science to say what the
absolutely.
speed of light should be.
No, science,
What
no,
you
you're
can
getting it
say
wrong.
is if
No,
my
science makes
prediction
the
is
observation
Morpheus,
first. Science
the
makes the observation
observation
first.
aren't shoulds.
No, I'm trying to explain this to you, but you're not listening. They make the observation first and they establish the should. And then after that, if there's a deviation, they
No,
look at why the deviation happened.
that's wrong.
It's not a value proposition. They don't care about the value of whether light's traveling at a speed. They don't say good or bad,
I didn't
but they
say
do
they
say
cared
it
about
was
it.
measured. They
Morpheus.
measured
I'm not
it
talking
in the
about them. I'm talking
19th,
about your
18th
use of
century.
it. It is not science to
But you
say
know I
that the
don't.
speed of,
But you know I know the difference between an ought and his distinction. So
it
why are
is
we even
not
debating
clear to
this?
me that you know the difference because you have been conflating it
I
two,
could
and
clearly
you seem
articulate it 1,000 times over, but you don't care.
you said because
It's
when
very
I asked
simple.
you
This
about
is
a
a really
person with
simple philosophical concept,
because
okay?
when I
This is
pointed
not
out
hard.
Morpheus, because the issues
If you think I
when
don't
I
know the
first
difference,
Morpheus, the issues that when
here,
I first
quiz me.
pointed
Give me
out
a quiz real quick. I'll tell you if I know. Give me a quiz.
a quiz on what?
If I know what an ought is distinction is. This is simple.
I'm not asking about what the ought is distinction is.
Yeah, you said I don't
You're
know what science is. And I'm literally quoting scientists.
more I should is not a scientific statement. The
Should
sun
humans be
the
able to
sun
procreate?
Morpheus, the sun is about 93 million miles from the earth. There is no distance that it should be. It just is.
So
There's
you're
no
saying
should.
that. Well, let me give you an example.
Unless you want to bring unless you want to bring
example.
somebody's intent in here, and let's say there's a
Let
God or
me
something.
give you an example, right? If I know that there's a physics calculation that should result in lift of an aircraft, and it doesn't, that gives the scientist the ability to go and investigate why it didn't, because they've established the should through empirical science.
There is no amount of lift that should pick up. Here's Morpheus.
You don't believe in science.
Morpheus, hold on. Here's what's going on.
That's the whole point of it.
Morpheus, here's what's going on. So what you could say, it's like, based on my prediction, you should see this. Right? We're not placing an ought on science. I'm talking about what I expect to see based off of my prediction. No, hold on, no. You were doing that because Morpheus, stop. I can point out how you were doing it. Let me finish. Because when I ask you about the X,
I'm not doing it. You don't need to
Morpheus, when I asked you about the X, you said that person is supposed to be X, or X, Y. There is no. Okay, so you're doing the exact thing that you just said you weren't doing 5 seconds ago.
An ought is a value proposition. I'm not making a value proposition. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Now, if I said
there's no
someone who doesn't have an
I don't know what the hang up between oughts and should.
I'll give you an example.
But either way,
you
shouldn't have oughts. You shouldn't have shoulds in science.
I'll give you an example. Really simple. If someone doesn't have an XX or XY chromosome, that's bad. That's an ought claim. I'm not making that claim. I'm saying that through the natural process of procreation, the outcome is XX or XY. If it's not, then there's an abnormality. And you have to go look and see at the sequence where there was a mistake.
Abnormality? No, that's not a mistake. No, stop. You're wrong again. You just said mistake. It's not a mistake. It's not. It's abnormality. No, abnormality is not a mistake. It's not a mistake
It's
that
not
should.
one of the sex
No,
types.
abnormality is just a deviation. Deviations are not mistakes. It is not a mistake that Shaquille O'Neal is 7'1".
I didn't say that.
It's a deviation.
No.
But
No.
it's an abnormality.
But
The
sex types and height
the,
are two different things. You don't want to compare those two because those are way different. Sex types, there's only two, right? Like if Shaquille O'Neal was born with two heads, like that would be basically an error in
that would
the
be another
process.
abnormality.
Yeah, it's a malfunction actually, is what happens. The genes are
So
basically.
I know you said you had to go, and I'm like super late getting here and an hour late to
Yeah, I
the
actually have to
discussion that's
leave
been
right
going
now.
on.
I'm already
But
10 minutes
what
behind
what you're
schedule.
what you're doing, and I could be completely off the mark here, but what you gave your example of an airplane. What you're doing when saying it should do something is giving a prediction based off of calculations and mathematics. If I overcome the weight of this airplane with lift, it should get off the ground. If it does not, science will tell me that it's because I did not overcome the lift. It does not say what should be. The should is the predictions based on the mathematical principles that I'm putting into place. And if I get it wrong, my math gets the lift wrong, what will happen is science will stay the same.
Yep,
Gravity is
exactly.
still the same on the
Exactly.
plane.
Yep, you're right.
So it is not the science that's saying what is should. It's my prediction saying what should.
Based off the
Gravity.
science. Right.
No. My
Yep, based off the
calculations
science
are
and
based
the
on the
calculations.
science, and if I get them
Exactly.
wrong,
The science says XXXY. If it's different, then there's an
yeah. So
abnormality.
like,
It's not. No, you're
gravity is
good.
nine
I
point
gotta
eight
go,
meters
guys.
per second per
I'm
second,
not able
right?
to continue on. I'm sorry. I wish I could. We can have another discussion in the future on this, but I'm already 11 minutes behind schedule. And I'm gonna be extremely late.
All good,
So,
man.
but I appreciate you letting me on, and if we want to have a second debate, we can. But just let me know.
All right, yeah, I'll definitely bring you
Thanks.
back on.
Okay. Good to hear your voice, Saad. Have a good one.
See you,
Okay.
All right,
Morpheus.
guys. So, um, as Morpheus departs, so the issue we was having here is that I'm not sure if he's tracking on what science is. He kept placing this alt. He kept saying that even if a person have X, so if a person have X, anything other than XY or XX, then their chromosomes are something other than what they should be. And this is a value system that is based not in science, but on his right wing type of thinking, on his right wing deviation of science. It is not science. This is the point I was trying to make with Shaquille O'Neal. Like he's a deviation. You can say like I'm a deviation. I'm like physically a strong guy, right? I deviate. There's no scientific. It wouldn't be science to say how strong I should be. It wouldn't be science to say how tall Shaquille O'Neal should be. This was just the breakdown in the logic. Another problem he was running into. He wanted to exclude any counterexample to a rule that he would make as an abnormality, and therefore get to ignore it. That is a quintessential example of a no true Scotsman fallacy. I can say all humans are bald. And then when you point out someone who isn't bald, I can say that's an abnormality. Ignore it. That's just not how reason works. But I am sorry the conversation wasn't more productive. I think probably would have been better if we had Facade on a little earlier, that we can like moderate the conversation. But that's it's kind of what I expected. But anyway, guys, I'll try to get him back on in about a week or two. Next week, or maybe it's the week after, we're gonna have Ed back on, and we're gonna be discussing the fall of man. We're gonna be discussing again about just like the sin? Who's responsible for it? Is it God or is it someone else? But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. I will catch you next time.